Okay, I'm the welcome. Yes, I'm the welcome. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual, spiritual, and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you'd like to learn more about the fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service through the hallway, the art hallway, for coffee hour. For the listening enjoyment of all, we ask that at this time you turn off or turn to vibrate your cell phones and pagers. Do people have pagers anymore? No, we can delete that line. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk in the back. Thank you all and enjoy the service.
Good morning. I'm Judy Darnell, and I have our announcements, except that's not them. Here we go. I don't think I need to read the order of service to you. Okay, all members or all meditators are invited to join the meditation group next door in the Learning Center at 11:45 this morning. And don't forget that yoga classes meet every Thursday at 6 o'clock in the gathering place. Registration is open for the Women's Connection Fall Retreat at October 14th and 16th, that's this coming weekend, in Racine, Wisconsin. The featured speaker is the Reverend Selena Fox of Circle Sanctuary. Earth-centered workshops and other activities will be available. More information is at their website, which I will post after the service, and I put the website in green, so it'll jump out at you. The $2 community euchre games will be held from 4 to 6:30 this afternoon. Players of all skill levels are welcome, and all money will be awarded. A chili supper will follow. Science and Society will meet this Tuesday, the 11th, at 2 o'clock to view the documentary This Changes Everything, which explores climate changes around the world. Be sure to sign up for the semi-annual cleanup along Johnson Street at 9 o'clock on Saturday, the 22nd. The group will meet at CVS, and the job should go quickly if there are at least 16 participants. The more the merrier. The sign-up sheet is on Ivy Island. Wednesday feasters will meet at 11:30 on October 26th at Mayberry Cafe, 736 Middleton Run Road here in Elkhart. Be sure to let Mary Adams know by Monday the 24th if you can come, so that she can reserve enough tables. Her contact information is in the directory. The Heart of the Circle Pagans will host a Samhain celebration here to prepare for their new year on October 29th. Gathering will begin at 5, ritual at 5:30, with a dumb supper potluck afterwards. More information is in the focus. The membership committee will hold new U classes on Saturdays, November 12th and 19th, for both new and not so new friends and members of UUFE. More information is in the focus or from membership chair Annette Long, and her contact information is also in the directory. Everything's in the directory or the focus. Okay, Worship and Arts Committee has placed a short survey on Ivy Island asking for your ideas and opinions with just 4 questions. Please take a moment to fill out the copy and place it in the collection box. The Ministerial Search Committee also has a survey to complete. There are several questions to consider and respond to help them find the best fit for our ministerial needs. The survey is also on the island, and they're actually the one claiming the big survey box. The focus has information about how to complete both of these surveys online. You are invited to our Trunk or Treat Halloween party, which will be held from 5 to 7 on Sunday the 30th, after the Samhain celebration. Those who drive are invited to decorate their trunks and provide treats for the younger set. We will then have stories, a simple meal, and activities for all here in our main building. There are 2 lists on the island and yet another set of lists. The most important list is for those who would like to attend, and since we are having food, we would need to have a pretty good nose count for how much soup or whatever it is we're going to prepare. The other form is for small teams to help with preparations, activities, and cleanup. So we've got some people signed up already and could use some more. There will be a short planning meeting about 10 minutes after the service today for all team members and those who just might like to help out. We will meet in the minister's office. Last week, we had 49 people in attendance and a collection of $229, which will go to our sustainability fund, which supports the maintenance of our buildings and grounds. This week's collection will go to the women's shelter here in Elkhart. Thank you. And I will take my band club and we will go. And there's Xander. We're glad to have him here too.
We have a troop. This week I was having trouble nailing down a topic for the morning musing. But just in time I received a bit of good news in the form of a letter from Susan Frederick Gray, who is the president of the UUA. I'd like to read the short letter and share the good news with you. The letter reads, every year, each congregation in the Unitarian Universalist Association is asked to give a financial contribution to support the wider movement and sibling congregations across the association. This contribution supports the annual program fund, which is the single largest source of income for the work of UUA. It also strengthens the covenant among us. Your congregation gave the full amount requested to the annual program fund during the past fiscal year. By the way, we've been doing this for several years. The reason I'm bringing it up this time is this is our first year back that we've gotten this letter since the pandemic, and we were down for 2 years. So I want to make sure and reinforce this. This means you are an honored congregation, honoring the covenant among us and between our congregations. And a big thank you. Your giving is a concrete expression of our congregation's covenant with one another and a recognition that we are not alone, but are part of an association of congregations. This support allows the UUA to serve the diverse needs of the 1,006 member congregations across 5 regions. Congregational giving through the annual program fund makes the work of the UUA possible. Please display this honor certificate somewhere prominent and share with your congregation my personal appreciation on behalf of all the congregations that your generosity benefits. Your support strengthens Unitarian Universalism. No individual congregation can possibly tackle the challenges of our society alone. We need one another, and our values are amplified powerfully when we support one another. Thank you again for your support in this with the annual program fund. You make so much possible. With deep gratitude, Susan Frederick Gray. So we framed that. We're going to put it up in a prominent location. In the past, I've heard many folks in the congregation comment that it seems that we give and give to the UUA, but we don't get anything in return. But that isn't the case. This sentiment reminds us as leaders of this congregation that we have not done as good a job reminding people that during the depths of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, the board asked Chuck Bauer to submit a grant request to UUA to help us repair the basement under this meeting room after the flood of 2018 made the meeting rooms down there unusable. Chuck did a great job on the submission, and we were awarded $11,500 to complete that renovation with no strings attached. The work wasn't highly visible because the church was closed. So we were coming in and out. The work wasn't highly visible because it occurred during the 2 years that we were closed for the COVID outbreak, but several of us put on our masks and went to work. As you may know, we were able to make some improvements along the way with the help of the CUPS group, and we got it done. It would not have been possible without the consistent financial support that all of you make possible with your pledges and contributions. We've been an honor congregation for many years, so this time when we asked for help, the UUA regarded us highly enough to grant our request, and we wish to thank you all. I will post the framed certificate and letter in a prominent place as a reminder of the fact that we are an honor congregation, and I'll show you if I can find it. So we have a certificate too. So we're going to post these in the gathering place on easels, so you'll be able to see them. And next year we'll put up the new one, and the new letter. So anyway, thank you all.
We ring our gong 3 times. Once for those who came before us and made a place for us. Once for those of us who are here now. And once for those who will come after us and build on the dream. I have a brief chalice lighting today. It's from Joyce Meyer. We can improve our relationships with others by leaps and bounds if we become encouragers instead of critics. And now would you please join with me as we read our unison covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant.
I drop this last stone for all the joys and sorrows left unspoken. And I light this last candle for all the joys and sorrows we have yet to know.
Maybe collect our offering, and as Judy mentioned, it's going to go to the Elkhart County Women's Shelter. And so would you please give generously to this worthy cause? Thank you. Our first hymn today is along the order of autumn and harvest, and Steve has kindly agreed to lead us in singing Give Thanks, number 69.
Give thanks for the corn and the wheat that are reaped, for labor well done, and for barns that are heaped, for the sun and the dew and the sweet honeycomb. lips have brought. Give thanks for the homes that with kindness are blessed, for seasons of plenty and well-deserved rest, for a country extending from sea unto sea, for ways that have made it a land for the free. Thank you.
And now it is again my distinct pleasure to introduce someone we've become very familiar with and enjoy seeing in our pulpit as often as possible, the Reverend Dr. Jimmy Clifton.
Thank you, Joan. Good morning. Nice to see you again. Get comfortable here. Why not? I'd like to read a prayer that came off of the Unitarian Universalist website. Mystery of love that we cannot define, we cherish you. We strive to bring you to life, feed our bodies and our minds. Let us find the freedom of forgiveness for ourselves and for others. Help us to see what truly matters and to resist evil and negative behavior. Living fully in the spirit of love, truth, and freedom. Amen. Richard Friedman, who goes by the professional name of Kinky Friedman, don't overthink that, is a comedian and a politician. You can overthink that one. From the state of Texas. He ran for office twice. He ran for state land commissioner, and he received 46% of the vote. Then he ran for governor and didn't do so well. But he was able to poll high enough to be invited to the general election debate between the Republican and the Democrat. And in one of those debates, he was asked, "Do you support gay marriage?" To which he responded, and I quote, expletive deleted. You got to go home and look that up on YouTube to see what he really said. He said, expletive deleted, "I support gay marriage because I believe they have the right to be just as miserable as the rest of us." We laugh at that. That is funny, but there's some truth in that. Listen what Sigmund Freud said back in his day. Should have underlined it. I will find it. Sigmund Freud took a slightly dim view of intimate relationships. He thought it was impossible to have a bond that lasted for any length of time without there being some residue of hostility and dislike. So even though Friedman's comment was funny and humorous, there's some truth in that, and we see that here with Freud. Relationships today in this country, many relationships in this country are in serious trouble. There are many people in relationships of all kinds that they would probably describe their relationship as miserable, as unhappy, as not healthy, as not good. And we see that. We see the numbers beginning to climb again in relationships of people leaving with all the terms that are involved, divorce, separations, and all the other terms that we have. We see that. I see that in my internet counseling practice, where all of a sudden I'm getting a lot of referrals for counseling, married couples, couples of all kinds, family counseling. I see an increase in that. And that is not my specialty, so I don't accept those clients. I work basically with individuals 18 and above. But I'm seeing an increase in that. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is the problem? The relationships of all kinds are in trouble. What's the issue? And it's the same issue as last week when I talked about conflict and confrontation. The primary issue is power and control. That is the primary issue with unhealthy relationships. But there are other issues as well. And I want to talk this morning about relationships between two people. However we want to define those, however we want to label those, I'm talking about intimate, close relationships between two people. Usually that live together in the same household. Go places together, share things together, do things together, bond together. Or just close personal friends that are intimate friends. I'm talking about two people generally. But what I'm going to talk about can be extrapolated into all kinds of relationships. But again, I want to talk about two people in a relationship. And why the relationships are unhealthy and how they can become healthy relationships. Most of the issues boil down to someone in that relationship has not been able to have a basic need in their life met. That seems to be the key. William Glasser, who I mentioned several times in here, says that people have 5 basic needs. And we all know about the basic needs with Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. Starts off with physiological needs, safety, works up to self-actualization. But Glasser says the 5 needs are love and belonging, survival, power, freedom, and fun. And if any of us, especially in a relationship, if we're lacking in one or more of those needs, we're not happy. We're not healthy in that relationship. And because we have not been able to meet one or more of our basic needs, that can cause problems in the relationship. Mostly because the other person in that relationship doesn't quite understand us. And we're trying to struggle and trying to find out how to meet some basic need. And we all do that, don't we? What do we hear generally? What have we heard? I'm trying to find myself. I don't know who I am. I feel lost. I feel empty. I feel like I'm struggling to discover myself because there's a basic need that is not being met. And it's one of those 5 or more of those basic needs. Love and belonging. That tendency to want to feel appreciated, to want to connect, to want to belong. To know that there's someone in our lives who really appreciates us, loves us, cares for us, nurtures us. That connection that we all have. And I don't think there's any person here this morning that can say that he, she, they don't want a connection in life. It's one of the reasons we come to church, of any denomination. That connection, that fellowship. That's why many churches after the worship service have that fellowship hour, that opportunity to connect, to relate, to feel good about someone being interested in us. And they feel good about us being interested in them, that love and that belonging, where we don't feel all alone in the world, where we know when we come home there'll be somebody there that'll care for us. in many capacities. Then there's that survival, love, belonging, then survival. And that's just not surviving things like illnesses or accidents or some type of tragedy. Glasser talks about surviving the issues that come up in relationships. The ability not to quit, not to give up, not to walk away, not to walk out when we have a struggle in a relationship, but to learn how to survive in those environments, to learn how to work things out, to rebuild, to reconnect, to reestablish that relationship. So we can again feel loved and have a sense of belonging in that relationship. We've been able to survive all of the heartaches of that relationship, all of the trials and the tribulations in that relationship, because we cared enough about that individual that we are in that relationship with that we are going to work very hard to make that relationship work. We will be able to survive that and then to be able to enjoy living again in happiness and harmony and tranquility in that relationship. And then there's power, that need for power. And I'm not talking about the kind of power where we lord over the other person. This is the kind of power where in that relationship we feel like we have the power to make choices for ourselves, the power to make our own decisions. See, that's another issue in many relationships. There's always somebody, seems to be somebody in that relationship who wants to control us, who doesn't want us to make decisions on our own. We hear that all the time, don't we? Many of us. Well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing it that way? Why did you pick that? Why did you order that? We want to be able to have a kind of power in a relationship where we're okay. We don't feel bad about making decisions for ourselves. And we have the right to make those decisions, to make those choices, to feel powerful enough to be who we are and to choose as we please and desire. Love and belonging, survival, power, and then freedom. Believe it or not, there are many people in relationships who don't feel free in that relationship, feel controlled. And that's dangerous in a relationship, to feel controlled. That we don't have the freedom to be who we are. That we have lived our lives the way that we've wanted to. Now we're in a relationship, and now we have to walk on eggshells in that relationship. That's no way to live. No way to live at all. That's a very unhealthy relationship where we don't feel free. That we are not afraid to come home at the end of the day. We're not afraid to express our opinion. You know, we saw that a couple years ago. And I'm not getting into politics, but I'm just using it as an example. We saw that a couple years ago, where there were people in relationships who actually got into physical altercations, who actually divorced, separated, moved out, moved away, whatever, because of a disagreement over a candidate. How sad is that? That somebody in that relationship didn't feel free enough to express their opinion, to express their choice. And when you don't have freedom in a relationship, you don't have a relationship. You feel enslaved. And then the other person feels they can lord over you, lord over us. So you have love and belonging, survival, power, freedom, then fun. I have done couples counseling in the past, and one of the main concerns I had from one person in that relationship, we don't have fun anymore. I don't have fun anymore. Life is boring. Does that sound familiar to anyone in here this morning? That in your relationship, the fun is gone? Caught in a routine? Caught in a monotonous relationship? There's no fun. There's no excitement. There's no joy. And after all, isn't that what life is really all about? Fun, excitement, joy, happiness. Not being able to wait till the next morning to get up and face the day with enthusiasm. Can't wait to see what life has to offer. And yet, how many of us feel like life doesn't have much to offer us anymore? Because we feel like the fun and the joy of life has been taken away from us, usually by someone in a relationship we're in that has robbed us of that joy. And we tell people in relationships, don't let anyone steal your joy. Don't let anyone steal your joy. So we have love and belonging, survival, power, freedom, fun, and then we look at, and what's the last one? Power, freedom, fun. Is that it? Is that 5? Love and belonging, survival, power, freedom, fun. That's it? Okay. So, okay, rewind. Now, what makes relationships really difficult when we're struggling trying to meet one of these needs is the attitude of the other person in that relationship who doesn't seem to understand our struggle, who doesn't seem to understand we don't feel loved, we don't feel like we belong, we feel like our joy's been robbed, we feel like we're not having fun, we don't feel free in this relationship. And rather than being encouraging and supporting, they have this tendency to laugh it off. Oh, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. You're just feeling sorry for yourself. You're just having a bad day. The attitude of the other person is critical when we're struggling with trying to meet one or more of those basic needs. And what we see in many occasions is the other person not being supportive enough of us to meet our needs, and then they engage in blaming. And I want to tell you, in a relationship, there are 2 words you want to avoid: blame and fault. Once those words come up in a serious discussion about a relationship, the other party is going to go on the defensive. It's going to become non-productive at that point. Anytime that word blame or fault comes up, conversation goes south. What we want to do is substitute. Rather than blame or fault, we want to substitute with the word responsible. How can each of us be more responsible in this relationship? That's productive. That's positive. Who doesn't want to be more responsible in life, in anything that we do? And then we want to avoid the word you. I know that we live in this society and generation of therapy where we're told use I statements. We've all heard that. I feel when you do this, I feel like I'm not respected. But see, the problem with that is you're still using you. No matter how much you say I feel, you're always going to say when you do something negative. And the other person immediately then goes on the defensive as well. What I suggest is you leave the word you completely out of the equation. I don't like coming home to a messy kitchen. I don't like getting in my car and the seat pushed forward. Come on, there's no one going to laugh here. Or pushed back. You're not blaming anybody at that point. You're not accusing anyone. You're just stating a fact of what you like or don't like. That way nobody can go on the defensive. And then there's criticism. When we're not having a need met and we express it, we get criticized. You're being silly. That criticism. And those of us in life who have been criticized, especially in relationships, how do we feel? We feel unheard. We feel like we're not important. We feel belittled. We feel as if we don't count. And when we're criticized, we're going to struggle even more to meet whatever basic need it is that we are not getting. Then there's the nagging. Nagging is another form of complaining. but it's more intense. It's almost constant. We've seen that. One partner goes to the other partner's job to nag that person on the job. Constantly calls that person when they're away to nag about something. And when we nag, we're driving the other person away. And we're telling that other person that your feelings don't count. Whatever you feel like you need or you're missing in life, you're just being silly. Not a good thing. And then we threaten. When our basic needs aren't being met, sometimes the other partner in the relationship begins to threaten us. Well, if you don't stop being silly, if you don't grow up, if you don't get mature, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to pay attention to you anymore. That's threatening. But in a healthy relationship, where we listen to the other person, when they express that they feel empty, that there's something missing in their life. In a healthy relationship, all of these negative behaviors I just talked about don't exist. What exists in those situations are very strong, healthy responses. First of all, we're very supportive. We're very supportive. We tell the person, I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm sorry you feel empty. I'm sorry you feel like there's something missing in your life, that you've never been happy. How can I support you? How different is that from blaming and nagging and complaining and threatening and punishing? How different is that from that? I support you. What can I do to help? You and I know when we hear those words, how encouraged we are, how good we feel. Sometimes we feel like those missing pieces are starting to come back together. Those pieces of the puzzle are starting to look full again, just because someone has expressed care and concern and support. And then there's that listening we talked about last week. You never listen to me. We hear that a lot in relationships that are unhealthy. But when we take the time to really listen, as I talked about last week, intently, not looking around, not looking at our watch, cell phones, whatever, thinking of an answer ahead of time, but to genuinely listen, to hear every word that comes out of that person's mouth, to listen for anything that would give us an indication of how we might be able to help. But if we don't actively listen, we're not going to be able to offer much support or help at all, are we? We have to learn to listen. And then we have to accept. We have to accept that this person is unhappy without immediately thinking it's because of me. That happens a lot too in relationships that are unhealthy. When one person expresses an unhappiness, the other person immediately thinks, well, there's something wrong with me. What did I do? Oh, she's blaming it, he's blaming, they're blaming it all on me. We have to accept the other person's feelings. We have to accept their concerns. We have to accept them where they are. See, that's a problem in other relationships as well. Many of us get into relationships with the attitude and the idea that there's some things about this person we don't like, but once this relationship develops, I'm going to change that person. Dangerous, very dangerous. Because the only person's behavior we can change is who? Our own. And that's where that power and control comes in, trying to change that person. If you don't like the person, some things about the person in the beginning, then why get involved? Because you think you're going to change them. And yet, in all honesty, has anybody changed you? No. Accept them, accepting where they are, helping them grow. Sometimes we get involved with people and we put them on the same level that we're on. Think they're on the same level of maturity and growth that we are. And then we get surprised, and then we get upset, and then we get mean, and then we get nasty. Well, you're not the person I thought you were. Well, who'd you think I was? You're not the same person I got involved with. Well, who did you get involved with then? Accepting. And then trusting. Big issue in relationships, trust. Trust. If you lack trust in a relationship, I have this theory that I think has come true, and I've seen it in people I've worked with. Somebody may get mad, but that's okay. Well, maybe not. I don't have anywhere to go. In many cases, when we don't trust others, it may be an indication that we're not all that trustworthy ourselves. Is that possible? I've seen it many times in people I've worked with. Learn to trust the person you're in a relationship with. Don't assume, don't jump to conclusions, but learn to trust them. Because again, you got into a relationship with them. Obviously, there must have been some trust on some level when the relationship began. Learn to trust. And then respect. Respect. That's a big word. It's a big word. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Aretha Franklin. Still rings true today. If I were to ask each of us individually this morning, do we truly respect the person that we are in a relationship with? Would we have to think about that? Or could we immediately answer in the affirmative? I think that's a good question. And what does respect entail? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to ask you to think about that. Because I think of all of the negative behaviors that we talked about today, that lack of respect may be critical. Respecting choices, respecting opinions, respecting attitudes, respecting differences. That's key. Being able to respect differences and to honor those differences. We talk a lot about diversity in society. What about diversity in relationships? We don't bring things that home sometimes, do we? We look at things at long distance. We want to respect diversity in our society, in our culture, in our denomination, in our church. But what about in our homes? Do we respect diversity in our homes? So some ideas about how to have healthy relationships. Some ideas about why sometimes people aren't happy in a relationship because one or more of our basic needs is not being met. And how we can be supportive in helping that person meet those basic needs. Always being willing to help. Always being willing to listen. Always being willing to be there. To be physically present. You know, sometimes when somebody's hurting, you don't have to say anything. You just have to be physically present. You just have to be there. That says a lot more than words. It really does. William Ellery Channing, one of the founders in the sense of Unitarianism, said we need more of the power to love than the love for power. And I would remember that. I would strongly remember that. Because again, that's the key to healthy relationships. The power to love over the love of power in that relationship. Amen. Are we going to do talk back? Well, that's okay. I can go sit down. Hey, you know what? I just talked about being willing. So I'm going to have to practice what I preach.
No, in coffee hour, though.
Oh, I can do it here.
Okay.
I'm okay.
All right.
Is this on?
Yes, it is. Okay.
Well, let's have any comments or questions or?
I want to thank you very much for this. I'm going to have to watch it on YouTube about 3 more times because I forgot to bring a pen, and I won't
apologize.
remember it
I
all.
drink a lot of water. I'm on a allergy pill. My mouth just dries up, and then I lose track of where I was. So I apologize.
Oh no, it was wonderful,
Thank
and there was
you.
so much in it.
I appreciate it.
I was going to say that I knew when he said there were 5 anythings. I got my pen out and away I go. And it's always wonderful to have a message.
I usually go 3 points, but I didn't want to cheat Glasser. You know, he had 5.
Right.
You know.
But I love having a message that I can take notes and remember. It's fantastic. Anybody? Oh, he won't want to hear from you.
Hi, Susie.
Hey, Jimmy. I agree. Another really great service. It's nice to be able to come in and you leave with something that you can think about. One of the things I recently read was that men want respect and women want love. And if both sexes could like understand that, it would cause less relationship problems. And when I read that, I kind of thought, that's kind of right, I guess.
Did you give that article to your husband? Sorry, Ed. I've known Susie longer than you.
I don't remember all the steps to it, but there is a practice called Ho'oponopono from Hawaii. And it came to my mind when you were talking about the importance of not blaming. And in that practice, one takes responsibility for absolutely everything. And so you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And I think it pertains also to feeling like we are all one and we're always another side of that same transaction.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you
Appreciate
for having me. This is, as far as I know, unless I'm asked to come back, I'm not scheduled to come back. But I want to tell you, most of you know I was ordained in 1987 at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Horton, Michigan. And other than preaching a Thanksgiving sermon in Detroit in 91, evening Thanksgiving sermon, never preached at a Unitarian church on the Sunday morning. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that here. So thank you. And I do hope to see you again. And I told the Worship and Arts Committee, I'm always willing to be here. I'm not out of town or preaching somewhere or sick. So I'm always willing and able, and even willing and able to do talkback. So thank you again. You're welcome.
Well, I'm on the Worship and Arts Committee, and I don't want to speak out of out of school, but we don't have a ton of speakers during this lay-led part of our church life, so I think we'll probably be seeing you again. And now our last hymn is Far Too Long by Fear Divided.
Far too long from divided, we have settled with the sword. Quarrels which would be decided by the reconciling word. Now the nations are united, though as yet in name alone.
ask Reverend Jimmy to benedict us out, but we also have a lovely postlude by Lizzie, a Mozart piece that it would be nice if we could sit and listen to.
So I want to challenge you this morning as you leave. Be a blessing to everyone you meet. And may the words you speak reflect the divinity in all of us. And may you never be weary in well-doing.